I remember the day as if it were slowed down. Clear light through tall windows, the garden strung with lights. People gathered in small groups, wine in hand, talking about dresses and speeches. I stood by the cake, feeling calm in a way that comes from deciding something important. Her name was Claire. We had been together 3 years. People liked us. We fit into the same circles. I am 31. I never thought much about labels when it came to us, until the engagement toast. It should have been warm. Her brother spoke about childhood mischief. My mother blinked away a tear, and friends clapped. Then Claire laughed. It was louder than a casual joke, and she said, so everyone could hear, I'm only marrying him for his money, not his face. Conversation stopped. Smiles froze. I did not shout. I did not storm out. I stood, walked to the small podium, and took the microphone. The room turned toward me. I kept my voice steady and said, then you won't mind paying for everything from now on. My tone was quiet, the words plain. For a moment, nobody moved. Then murmurs began. Claire's face went pale. She tried to laugh it off. The laugh fell flat. Guests shifted, unsure where loyalty belonged. That night, the mood was heavy. Some people tried to act normal, trading small talk. Others slipped away to whisper. Claire spent the evening texting and calling, trying to repair whatever had snapped. I answered a few messages, but I held back. The public comment had changed what privacy we still had. What I had done wasn't sudden. I had been tired of covering costs that never got mentioned until the bill arrived. It wasn't about a single expensive dinner or a spur-of-the-moment trip. It was the pattern, empty promises about repayment, excuses when plans were made without consulting me, a habit of assuming I would take care of the consequences. I had tried to talk about money before. Those talks never stuck. A week earlier, I had separated certain joint arrangements. Not dramatic paperwork, just shifting a few cards and accounts into a different place while we finalized engagement details. I did it because I wanted clarity. After Claire's comment, I called the bank and placed a temporary hold on the cards linked to the shared account. I told them it was a security check. I didn't tell Claire. The next morning, the venue called. There's an issue with the payment, the coordinator said. The card on file won't go through. I stayed calm and promised to sort it. When the florist tried to charge for the flowers, the payment declined. Small things unraveled into a pattern no one could ignore. Claire tried to pay at a cafe and watched the card refuse her. She called me from the street, voice cracking. I had already packed a bag. The flight I booked wasn't an escape. It was a choice to let the consequences happen without me there to soften them. I wanted the truth to land where it would do the most good. At the airport, I sat by the window and watched people board. I felt a quiet relief, not cruelty. I had given her a chance to explain, to change course without spectacle. Instead, she had chosen public mockery. Letting the normal flow break felt like setting a boundary, a practical lesson and a personal one. The morning after the engagement party, my phone started buzzing before I even got out of bed. Missed calls, messages, and a few half-hearted apologies. Most came from people who had been there the night before. Some were checking if I was okay. Others wanted to know if what happened was real or just some strange inside joke. I didn't respond to anyone. I just stared at the message from Claire that read, "You're taking this too seriously." Everyone knew I was joking. Except it wasn't a joke. Not the way she said it. Mocking tone, eyes on her friends, laughter spilling from her side of the table while mine stayed silent. It wasn't the first time she'd made me the punchline, but it was the first time she'd done it in front of everyone I knew. I got up, brewed some coffee, and opened my laptop. I checked the emails from the wedding planner and the venue. 2 payment reminders, both bounced. Then I logged into the joint account. The numbers were clean, every cent accounted for, sitting quietly in the balance I'd frozen the night before. The engagement ring was on the counter. It caught the light like nothing had happened, though everything had. I took it, put it in its box, and placed the box in my drawer. I didn't feel angry anymore. Just done. Around 10 a.m., my doorbell rang. It was her best friend, Julia, the one who'd laughed the loudest during that toast. She stood there awkwardly, holding a bag of leftover decorations. "She's losing it," she said. "Claire's freaking out. She said all her cards stopped working." I nodded. "Yeah, I know." Julia shifted her weight. "Did you do something?" "I just made sure we're financially separate," I said. "Seemed fair since she's marrying me for my money." Julia didn't respond. She placed the bag by the door and left without another word. By noon, Claire showed up by herself. Her eyes were red, her voice small but sharp. "Why would you humiliate me like that?" she asked, stepping into the apartment. I stared at her for a long second. "Humiliate you? You said that in front of everyone we know." "It was supposed to be funny," she said quickly. "You're overreacting. You made me look terrible." I took a sip of coffee. "I didn't make you say it. And honestly, I'm tired of being your punchline." She folded her arms. "You froze our account. Do you realize what that looks like?" "Yeah," I said. "Like the truth catching up." Her jaw tightened. You can't just cancel the venue and take the ring. That's not fair. I met her eyes. Neither is pretending to love someone while keeping score of their bank balance. For a long minute, the only sound was the clock ticking in the background. She looked around the apartment as if realizing how much of it wasn't hers. The furniture, the paintings, even the smallest things on the shelves had been chosen by me. I didn't mean it like that, she said quietly. You know I care about you. I shook my head. No, I think you care about what I give you. There's a difference. Her face fell, and she stepped closer. Please, just let's talk. I'll fix this. But I'd heard that before. Promises always came after the damage was done. I told her I was leaving for a while. You'll figure things out, I said, handing her a plain envelope. Inside was a copy of the bank separation notice. Clean, official, final. She didn't say another word. She just stood there, staring at the paper, until I picked up my bag and walked out the door. By evening, I was sitting in a small regional airport, watching flights take off. The world outside the glass looked calm. I felt lighter, like someone had cut the rope holding me still. That night, I got a voicemail from Claire. I didn't mean what I said. Please call me back. We can fix this. Her voice cracked near the end. I didn't call. It wasn't revenge for me anymore. It was closure. She had made her intentions clear in front of everyone. And now, she had to live with that same truth. 2 days after I left, I was staying at a small rental near Denver. It wasn't fancy, just quiet. I needed space to think without seeing reminders of her everywhere. My phone stayed on silent, but every few hours I checked the notifications out of habit. Most were from friends asking what really happened. I didn't explain much. I just said things didn't work out and left it at that. But Claire wasn't done. She started calling from different numbers. Then came the emails, some emotional, some angry. You embarrassed me in front of everyone. I said something stupid. We can fix this. Then, when I didn't respond, the tone changed. You can't just leave like that after everything we planned. Every message reminded me why I'd walked away. On the third day, my mother called. I heard Claire's been telling people you overreacted, she said carefully. That you're trying to punish her. I sighed. Mom, did you see the video? Video, she asked. One of Claire's friends had apparently filmed part of the toast. It was short, but enough to show the moment. The laughter, the words, my calm response. Someone had posted it online, and by the next morning, it spread across our town like wildfire. The caption read, "When the joke stops being funny." It wasn't viral in the internet sense, but it reached all the people who mattered, friends, colleagues, family. Nobody could pretend it didn't happen. And with the clips circulating, her story about me, overreacting, didn't hold up anymore. Claire texted again that night. You made me look like a gold digger in front of everyone. Do you realize how cruel that is? I didn't reply. I didn't need to. She had done that to herself. By the end of the week, mutual friends started taking sides. A few of her friends blocked me, which was fine. Others reached out quietly to say they couldn't believe she said that. I didn't gloat. I just thanked them and moved on. I didn't need people to pick sides. I just wanted peace. But karma has a strange sense of timing. The wedding venue called me again. The manager said Claire tried to book it under her name using a new card, but it bounced. Apparently, she'd been relying on the joint account and a card I used to pay most of our bills. With that gone, she was scrambling. Then Julia, her best friend, sent me a message. She's trying to sell the designer stuff you bought her, she wrote. Bags, shoes, even that bracelet from your trip last year. She's desperate for cash. I read it twice and set the phone down. I didn't feel satisfaction exactly, just a strange calm. It wasn't about payback anymore, it was balance. Still, curiosity got the better of me. I looked her up on social media. Most of her photos from the engagement party were gone. The caption that once said, "Can't wait to spend forever with him," had been replaced with "Sometimes people show their true colors too late." I almost laughed, not out of spite, but disbelief. She still wanted to paint herself as the victim. The next morning, my dad called. You handled it well, he said. Most people would have caused a scene. I told him it didn't feel like handling it well, it just felt necessary. He paused, then said, You taught her something she'll never forget. Not everyone needs shouting to understand a mistake. That line stuck with me. I spent the next few days quietly packing the last of her things that were still in my apartment. I boxed them up, labeled them, and sent them to her parents' address with a short note. All yours. Take care. No anger. No insult. Just closure. Later that week, Julia called again. She's been crying nonstop, she said. She told everyone you canceled the wedding to get attention, but then that video spread. Now people don't believe her anymore. Her family's furious. I thanked her for letting me know. Maybe it's time she learns what honesty costs, I said. That night, Claire called one last time. I didn't pick up, but she left a voicemail. Her voice sounded tired. You win, she said quietly. I shouldn't have said that. I thought it was harmless. I didn't think you'd actually leave. For the first time in days, I felt a trace of sadness. Not for what we lost, but for how small her apologies sounded after everything. A week passed before I finally began to feel normal again. I rented a small place near the mountains, quiet enough that the only sounds were wind and birds. For the first time in a long time, my mind wasn't constantly circling what I owed someone or how to make things right. I woke up early, made coffee, and took long walks. My phone stayed on silent. But of course, peace doesn't last long when someone's trying to pull you back. One afternoon, while I was making lunch, my phone buzzed again. It was Claire. I ignored the first few calls, but when she texted, "I'm outside your place," I froze. I opened the blinds, and there she was, standing next to a rental car, eyes red from crying. I stepped outside, kept a bit of distance, and said, "You shouldn't have come here." She tried to smile, but her voice cracked. "I just need to talk. Please. I can't sleep. Everyone's judging me. My parents are furious. My job's been weird since that video started going around." I stayed quiet. She continued, "I didn't mean it, okay? I was nervous, and I said something stupid. It was supposed to be funny." "Funny," I said. "You told a room full of people you're marrying me for money. That's not a slip of the tongue. That's who you are when you think everyone agrees with you." She looked down, wiping at her eyes. "I know. I hate myself for it. I panicked. Everyone was watching, and I said the first thing that came to mind." I nodded slowly. "So you told a joke about using me for money to impress your friends?" She didn't answer. I sighed. "Claire, I didn't humiliate you. You did that to yourself. You thought you could say anything, and I'd still pay for everything. That's not love. That's entitlement." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I love you." I shook my head. "You love comfort. You love attention. But me? You laughed at me." She tried to move closer. "Can't we just start over? We don't need the wedding. Just us." I stepped back. "I don't want to rebuild something based on pity. I gave you my trust, not a credit card. And you threw it away for a laugh." Her eyes filled again, and for a second, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But I remembered all the times she brushed off my concerns, how she'd joke about how lucky I was to have her, or how I should spend like a man who can afford it. It wasn't one mistake, it was a pattern. She finally whispered, "I don't have much left, you know. My family's angry. I had to move back in with them. They said I embarrassed them." I looked at her car, the rental logo still on the back. "Then maybe it's time you learn to stand on your own." Her lips parted, but no words came. She just stood there, shaking her head slightly, as if realizing I wasn't going to change my mind. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "For everything." I nodded once. "I hope you mean it." She turned to leave, and for a long moment, I watched her walk away. It didn't feel victorious. It just felt done, like the story had finally reached its last page. Later that evening, Julia texted me again. She's saying she's moving out of state. Wants to start over somewhere new. I just replied, "That's probably best." That night, as I sat on the porch, I thought about how small moments reveal the truth about people. Not grand gestures, not big promises, but the things they say when they think they're being funny, when the mask slips just enough. Claire's laughter that night was her real self showing. And I guess I should be thankful I heard it before signing a lifetime with her name next to mine. A few days later, I got a notification that my refund from the wedding venue and vendors had gone through. Everything was back in my account. Clean slate. I booked another flight, this time not to run away, but to start fresh. Somewhere new, away from old conversations and judgmental whispers. As the plane lifted off, I looked out the window and thought about how sometimes karma doesn't need drama, it just needs patience. It's been 6 months since that night. 6 months since the laughter, the toast, and the quiet decision that changed everything. I've settled into a quieter life now. Different city, smaller apartment, less noise. I don't look at things the same way anymore. There's a kind of freedom in rebuilding from scratch, not because someone left, but because you finally chose to leave what wasn't real. I don't check her social media anymore, but once in a while, something about her finds its way to me. Mutual friends still send updates, maybe out of habit, maybe out of curiosity. Apparently, she lost her job a month after I left. The video didn't just haunt her personal life. It made its way into her workplace group chat. Someone shared it, saying, "This is the girl from that viral engagement clip." The company didn't like the attention. Then her parents cut her off financially. She'd been relying on them after the wedding plans fell apart, but they grew tired of the gossip, too. From what I've heard, she moved to a smaller town, working part-time somewhere, trying to stay under the radar. I didn't feel joy hearing that. Just quiet understanding. Actions have echoes. Meanwhile, my life moved on in ways I didn't expect. I started meeting people again, not for romance, but for connection. Real ones. Friends who talk about books and hiking instead of brands and weekend trips. I've learned to enjoy silence, to sit with my thoughts without needing someone else to fill them. A few weeks ago, I got an email. It was from her. Short. Honest. I finally understand what I did to you. It wasn't just a joke. It was years of taking you for granted. I've been trying to fix my life. I'm not asking for another chance. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I read it twice, then closed it. I didn't reply. Not out of bitterness. I just didn't see the need. Some apologies are meant to stay floating in the air, unanswered but understood. Sometimes, silence is the reply. Looking back now, that engagement night feels like a mirror I didn't know I needed. It reflected everything I'd been ignoring. The imbalance, the subtle disrespect, the quiet way love was turning into a transaction. If she hadn't said those words, I might have kept ignoring the truth for years. I guess that's what karma looks like in real life. It doesn't always roar or arrive with fireworks. Sometimes, it just walks into a crowded room, sits quietly beside you, and lets someone reveal exactly who they are. And once they do, you can't unhear it. When I tell people the story now, they ask if I regret not forgiving her. I don't. Forgiveness doesn't mean going back. It means walking forward without anger. And that's exactly what I did. The ring stayed in my drawer for a while. Last month, I sold it and donated half the money to a local women's shelter. Not out of irony, just because I wanted that chapter to do something good before it disappeared. The rest went toward my next trip, somewhere peaceful, somewhere far. Before boarding that plane, I stood by the window and thought about how strange it is. One sentence, one laugh, and suddenly your entire life resets. But maybe that's the point. Sometimes life needs to break in public so you can finally build something private and real. I don't hate her. I don't even think about her much now. But I do remember the look in her eyes when she realized the world doesn't bend for people who take others for granted. If that night taught me anything, it's this. Respect doesn't need to be demanded. It's earned quietly and lost loudly. So yeah, maybe I didn't just walk away from her. Maybe I walked back to myself. What do you think? Did I go too far? Or did I just give her the kind of lesson life eventually gives everyone who mistakes love for luxury?